All right, what's up, guys? VV back with another video. And in today's video, guys, we're going to be checking out Red, Yellow, Sabo. For those who don't know, this might become my new project come OP0, well, excuse me, ST-13 when it comes out. I think it needs a little bit of love from EB01 and OP07 to really take off. But I think this is probably going to become my new little pet project on the side once it hits an ST-13. I will still play Black, Yellow, Linlin. I will still be playing Rebecca, all the stuff that I normally play. But this deck just looks like so much fun. And in today's video, we're going to be going over a deck tech. Because this deck just recently over in the East, of course, just did very well in pretty much 2 tournaments in a row. And we're going to look at that right now. So I hopped on OnePieceTopDecks.com. And by the way, that's the direction we're going with this video, obviously, is we're going to be checking out Red, Yellow, Sabo, ST-13 Sabo. And so back to what I was saying, I kind of hopped on, OnePieceTopDecks.com, which I do every single day, just to see what's winning, see how things are doing over in the West and the East. And I hop on and I see 2 Sabo decks just right here, both recorded on February 12th, so just 2 days ago, at the time you're recording this video. And I'm thinking, wow, okay, that's pretty interesting. And there's a lot of interesting stuff on here, so you should definitely go check out if you have not already. But Red, Yellow, Sabo, I've had my eyes on, so when I saw it won a 64-player tournament and then just some type of card shop flagship, I started thinking, okay, well, this is pretty solid. Now, real quick, this will piggyback off of my last video a tiny bit, where I was saying that it looks like Red's a little bit underrepresented in the current meta, like over in the West, right over in the OP05 West. We're about to be going into OP06 in about a month. Well, check this out, guys. I'm sorting by Red decks only, which is OP06 Uda, ST10 Luffy, ST13 Sabo, ST10 Law, Edward Newgate, Zoro, the new EB01 Odin, which is red-green, and OP01 Law, which is also red-green. And guys, here you go. And by the way, this is out of this many results that have been put in so far. It's still early off, and it's early on in their meta over there. This is technically under OP07/EB01. Okay, so in that time period, they've put out almost 100 decks, 91 decks, and check this out, guys. Of all the cards they recorded that they populated the list with, 21 have red in them. So, again, we're starting to see a lot of diversity. The game does look like it's in a very good spot. We're not sure how it's going to go yet, right? This format is brand new over in the East. We'll have to see if Sakazuki is still very dominant. We'll have to see how things go. But as a general statement, it looks like Red is catching up, and that if you look overall, the entire format looks very diverse. I'm seeing yellow decks, blue decks, green, red, black, purple. I'm seeing everything. And that's a good sign, right? That's what we want to see. Now we do still have to wait for a major tournament to happen. Obviously, we have not seen any major tournaments yet for the East and OP07 or EB01. But again, we'll have to see how things go. All right. Until then, let's go ahead and check out these 2 Sabo decks. We'll check this one out first, and then we'll check out the other one. I think the other one won a slightly larger tournament. I could be wrong about that. But there is a general formula that they've come across for Sabo. So real quick, let me go ahead and read through the list here, and then we'll talk about it. So 4 Cracker, 4 Gadatsu, 4 Satori, 4 Ace, the 2-cost Ace, 4 of the 5-cost Ace, 4 Garp, 4 Luffy, the 2-cost, 4 Flampy, 4 of the 5-cost red Luffy, not the yellow Luffy, 4 Koala, 2K counter, 4 Lindbergh, 4 Kid and Killer, and 2 You're the One Who Should Disappear. Okay, very straightforward list, not very complicated, not very technical or anything like that, just a straightforward, it's a straight-up bruiser list, guys, to be honest with you, because I'm going to read what the leader does for those who don't know. I should have kept my glasses on. So it's just a 5,000 power leader with 4 life. With Dawn ×1, activate main once per turn. Check out what this does. You may add one of your cost 3 or higher characters with 7,000 power or higher to the top of your life face up. Then give up to one of your characters plus 2,000 power until the start of your next turn. So plus 2,000 throughout your turn and going into your next turn. So it protects them for a long time. And guys, for some of these cards, that's pretty nice, right? It's going to keep a lot of these cards at around 7,000 power or higher, right? Gadatsu would be at 8,000 power until the start of your next turn. Lindbergh, 7,000. Luffy, 8,000. Ace would be at 9,000 until the start of your next turn. Very powerful. Very, very powerful stuff here. And for Kid and Killer, this is another new card. Let me read this real quick, because you do need to know what this does. I don't know why I just took my glasses off. If your opponent has 2 or less life cards, this is when attacking. If your opponent has 2 or less life cards, this character gains plus 2,000 power during this turn. So again, guys, this is just massive. It interacts perfectly with our leader and smashes it. It's a 4-cost 7k rusher. So, you know, so now we have access to, well, it's not in this list, but there's a 3-cost 5,000 power rusher in Zoro. And then there's a 4-cost 7,000 power rusher in Kid and Killer. This card, as long as your opponent's at 2 or less life, right? But guys, this card is going to be outstanding. The 2k counter package for this deck as well, very solid. Satori, this is another threat, right? This is a 5-cost 5k 2,000 counter that you can play from Trigger. And then check out Flampy. For those who don't know, I probably should have said spoiler warning, guys, but I'm sure you figured that out by now, like by seeing we're talking about EB01 and OP07. That, you know, the fact that we're even talking about Sabo, right? That's all a spoiler for us. Well, Charlotte Flampy is a 1-cost 2,000 counter, a 1-cost 1,000 power 2k counter. With on play, add 1 card from the top or bottom of your life, and then draw 1 card. So early on, this is going to be a nice utility 1-cost draw 2. Yes, it comes at the cost of 1 life, but remember what your leader is doing. Your leader is by default gaining you life. Very, very powerful, guys. Like, this has so much synergy. It is going to be a high. I think this deck is going to have a pretty high skill ceiling, but at the same time, not the hardest skill ceiling out there. But notice one other thing I haven't talked about yet. So and one more 2k counter, by the way. This is just literally an Otama, like a souped-up Otama working minus 3,000, as long as your leader is Revolutionary Army, and of course, Sabo is Revolutionary Army. But guys, notice something I didn't mention yet. Ace, Luffy, and Kid and Killer are all rushers. They're all rushing in, and they're massive. And they get to 7,000 very easily. Like, for example, Kid and Killer, you don't even have to invest any Dawn into it, as long as your opponent's at 2 or less life. When you attack with it, it's at 7,000 power. So just by attaching 1 more Dawn to Sabo, now this card's going to the top of your life, right? So it's just incredible. And think of that with a card that's not in this list. I think it's in the next list. Think of that with Akikanojo. That is a 4-cost 6,000 power card, Land of Wano, that has on play, when on KO, if your opponent has 3 or less life, you gain a life. And it has trigger, if your opponent has 3 or less life, play this card. So attaching 1 Dawn to Akikanojo means you swing for 7,000, and you're going to be able to use Sabo to throw it back to the top of your life. And when you take damage the next turn, as long as they're at 3 or less life, it comes directly into play. And then if they KO, you gain another life. Yeah, it's just massive synergy. Now, this deck is running Cracker, and I actually think they should be running Akikanojo here. And we're going to look at the other list in just a second, because it is very similar. But I think it's just a flat-out upgrade to run Akikanojo over Cracker. I could be wrong. Cracker's obviously going to be stronger going into the monocolored leaders like Gecko Moria, or even Uda, the new Uda leader. Well, not new, but the ST-13 Uda leader, and things like that. So, Katakuri even, things like that. So, but I don't think that's our biggest issue. I think just you want more synergy instead. I don't quite get Gadatsu because you want to be. This is a pretty aggressive deck. And it is running the Monkey D. Gart plus the Luffy and Ace mini package, whatever you want to call this. Where, think about it, if you swing for 7, let's just use this as an example. Say you use Ace, which is a 5-cost, 7,000 power rusher if your opponent has 2 or less life. So again, you want to be pretty aggressive. If you swing for 7 with this, because he's a 7k by default, right? So pay 5 swing. You can use your Sabo, attach 1 to your Sabo, put Ace on the top of your life, then play out his miniature version, play Sabo again to swing for 7,000 more. Like, from your life, and now your leader is at 8,000, because remember, he has 1 Dawn attached, and he got plus 2,000 until the start of your next turn with this card. And you could do the exact same thing with, Luffy. So, guys, this is one of those decks that has very, very powerful synergy. I don't think they've quite figured out the exact perfect list yet, but I think they're getting very close with this list. Now, let's look at one more list over here. I think this list was slightly better and won a slightly larger tournament, but I could be wrong about that. I'm not exactly sure. And if anyone knows, if anyone has any information on that, please help us out down in the comment section below. All right, so let me go through this list, and then we're going to talk about it. So Sabo, excuse me, I'm spitting everywhere. So we got 4 Satori, we have 4 Okiku, and this is the card I was calling a Kikanojo. I think that's the technical name for it. It's just shortened on this list. 4 Neko Mamushi, 4 Ace, 4 the 2-cost Ace, 4 the 5-cost Ace, 4 of the of Garp, 4 Luffy, 4 4 of the 3-cost 2000 counter Luffy. Remember, you just need a 3-cost or more for Sabo's effect. It has to be a 3-cost, a cost 3 or higher, and then get to 7,000 power. Well, this card does that very easily, right? And then you still have you have 4 of your 5-cost Luffy, 4 of the 3-cost Zoro, 4 Koala, 4 Lindbergh, 4 Kid and Killer, and 2 of You're the One Who Should Disappear. Let me check something real quick. This one had Lindbergh, right? And I just didn't read it. Okay, I'm gonna read it on the one we're on now. Okay, so back to the list we were just at. So this is what Lindbergh does. I forgot to read this on the last one. Number 1, if your leader is multicolored, you can trigger play this card from hand. Discarding a card from hand to play this card from your life. It's a 4-cost 5K with a 1K counter. When attacking, if this character has 7,000 power or more, well, that's the number we're going for anyway, right? KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 3,000 power or less. You combo that with a Koala, you're hitting a 6,000 or less. So just immense amounts of synergy, right? Very, very powerful synergy. I think this list is slightly better than the first one we saw because it runs the Okikus and the Neko Mamushis. I don't really care as much for this card, and I understand why they're running it, because notice they're not running Flampy. They're running 4 Koalas, 4 Satori, and then they're running 4 of Monkey D. Luffy for the 2K counter. This obviously goes with Garp. For those who don't know what Garp does, pause it and read this for a second. It's a top 5 searcher for Sabo, Ace, and Monkey D. Luffy that costs 5 or less. Plus, place the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order, of course. So, it allows your Garp to search up a 2K counter, which is very nice. However, typically speaking, that's obviously not what you're going to go for. And instead, if this was the 2-cost Luffy, you'll be able to get 2K counter on your leader if you search that up instead of this card in particular. I think this card is so good. It's just we're getting to a point in the game where it's hard to find enough slots in the deck to put every card you want in there, right? So you do have to pick and choose very wisely. And in my personal opinion, Flampy, the 1-cost Flampy, Satori, and Koala, I think if you're going to run 12 2K counters, I think those are the 3 you should run. That's just me personally. I understand the argument being able to search it up with Garp for this Luffy here. And it's a 3-cost that gets to 7K very easily. I understand all of that. However, I still personally think that Flampy is a little bit stronger. Maybe not, though. I'll have to do some play testing whenever the cards come out for us over here in the West, or on the sim for us in the West. But yeah, Lindbergh is obviously very powerful. Like I was saying, it's going to be able to get around the small blockers like the Rebeccas or the little choppers, things like that, beige, things like that. If Red Green Law ever makes a resurgence, all the smaller cards, even like Brule, the 3-cost 1K counter, like Boa Hancock, Nefeltari Vivi, the blockers that come in from Trigger. But yeah, so this list is very similar. Instead of running Cracker, it's running Okiku, and instead of running the Gadatsu, it's running Neko Mamushi, which I like that better as well. Now, it is running the Zoros in the place of, let's see what it was. It's running Zoro in the place of, what was it? I'm not sure. Let me see. Am I missing something? Hang on. Let me get back to it. I know it's not running oh, of course. Obviously. It's running the Zoros over the Aces. And instead of running the Flampy, it's running this card to replace that Ace that you can now search up, with Garp. And in that case, I'm surprised they didn't just double up with the Luffys. Because you can get this Luffy, and you'd be able to get the other Luffy, the 2-cost 1K, or 2-cost 2K, that grabs a Luffy from life to give you plus 2,000 power for, until the start of your next turn. So, that's something I'm surprised they didn't take full advantage of. But still very solid. This one's running a lot of rushers in Zoro, Luffy, Ace, and Kid and Killer. And as things go on, we'll have to see how things change up and see what ends up being the best option. But I have to say, Okiku, read this trigger real quick. If your opponent's life is at 3 or less, play this card. It's a 4-cost 6K. I understand it doesn't have any counter, but that's a 4-cost 6K. And if they decide, like, okay, I need to get rid of that card, okay, well then you're going to get, if your opponent's at 3 life or less, like we were saying for the trigger, then you're going to gain a life when they KO it. Now, if they bottom deck it, it is what it is. That's the strength in bottom decking, right? Well, Neko Mamushi is the same kind of card, where, again, if your opponent's at 3 or less life, you just get to play this card straight from your life as a trigger. No discard effect. And this card has Dawn ×2, which, again, gets it to that perfect number 7, right? You'll be able to attack with this character. You're going to be able to attack active characters. So just imagine how that goes. Okay, you can get this card to 7K, like Okika Nojo. Get it to 7K, smash in, use your leader's effect to put on top of your life now. Then when they attack you next turn, this card's going to come straight into play. Same thing with Neko Mamushi. You bash into their character, and instead of them getting to KO your character, because now your character's tapped, right, and he's vulnerable, nope. Now, I'm going to put him on top of my life, and when you go to attack me, I'm just going to get him back into play, and he's going to be standing now. He's going to be active where you can't attack him. So just incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I can't wait to play this deck. I've mentioned it before. It's a deck that I will follow closely to see how it does. And I think this deck is going to be very powerful. I really do. I think it still needs to be edited. Something in between this deck and this one. The first one we looked at, if it loads. There we go. I think it needs to be something in between here. Maybe we do cut Flampy. Like, I love the card Flampy, but maybe we do cut that card for the 2K counter Luffy here. By the way, if you really like this card, now's probably the time to get it. Okay? If you're really interested in playing this card in what we're talking about, or in a deck that you want to mess with that, that's coming out soon, this is a promo card. It will more than likely only become more and more expensive. So, again, warning, pick it up now before it becomes too expensive if you really want to try this card out. Everything else in this deck is actually very, very cheap, or it should be very, very cheap on release. Yeah, I mean, these Luffys and Zoros are probably like $10 each. I don't remember exactly, don't quote me on the numbers, but I know they're pretty cheap nowadays because of reprints for the 3-cost Zoro, and the Luffy's had a lot of reprints as well for like championship stuff and just like local tournament cards. So very awesome. Well, guys, that's about it. I don't want to rail on for too much longer. One more thing that I will say is that I do think this deck has room for improvement, because at the time of us recording this video, and I don't think the cards were out just yet. I don't think the OP07 stuff is out just yet for the East. Is it? I don't believe it is. I know OP06 is, and I'm pretty sure, and of course the EB01 stuff is, but I don't think the OP07 stuff comes out until literally later this month for them. I could be wrong about that. Someone help me out in the comment section below if I am. But there are some OP07 cards that are probably going to take the list to the next level, right? It's going to take the deck to the absolute next level with a card like the 10, more spoiler warnings, guys, but there's a 10-cost Ace coming out. It's a 10-cost, 10,000 power that has Rush if you have 2 or less life cards. And when it enters play, the on play is, it gives you a life. You gain a life, period, no matter what. So in other words, if you're at 2 life and you go to 3 life, he won't have Rush. However, if you're down at 0 life or 1 life and you play it, you'll still have Rush. So he's smashing in for 10K Rush. Just immense amounts of potential there. Really awesome. All right, well, you guys tell what y'all think in the comment section below. What deck do y'all think I should check out next? Especially, and I'll give you guys an option. I kind of want to check out Red Purple Law, like EB01 included, obviously, or Red Green Odin. Those are kind of what I'm looking to check out the most. I'd like to look at Red Green Law, but it didn't get too much. It got a few extra tools in EB01, and it'll probably get more in OP07. But I really am interested in checking out Red Purple Trafalgar Law and Red Green Odin. But yeah, just to end on, guys, one more thing I want to mention about Red Yellow Sabo is if I missed a card that you guys think should be in here, please do not hesitate to mention it down in the comment section below. Because like I said, I'm having the same feelings for this particular deck as I was having for Black Yellow Linlin, where it's like, dude, this just seems like so much fun. I'm not saying this deck will be the best in format. Please do not misunderstand me, guys. I'm not trying to give a false impression. I'm not trying to build false hope. I'm just saying that I'm looking at how this deck can gain a life every turn. Y'all know I love that. And this deck is so much more aggressive than Linlin ever was. You know, like just ever was. Now, who knows? I might be able to add some, you know, the new 5-cost 7K Ace to Linlin and make it more aggressive in the future. I've not given up on Black-Yellow Linlin. I'm going to try Black-Yellow Luffy as well. And I'm going to, you know, mess around with all that kind of stuff. But there's something about this deck in particular, guys, the way it can manipulate life and throw rushers into play and just start bashing. I'm really interested in trying this out. So, all right, guys, like I said, if I missed anything coming out in OP07 that's not mentioned in these lists just yet, y'all tell me. Y'all help me out in the comment section below. All right, guys, that's about it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, peace.